जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय श्रील प्रभुपाद। हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्य उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Reading from Canto 5 titled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 8 titled The Character of Bharat Maharaj, text number 9. अहो बतायाम हरिणकोणकः कृपण ईश्वर रथचरण परिभ्रमण रायेण स्वगण सुहृद बंधुभ्यः परिवर्जितः शरणं च मोपसादितो मामेव मातापितरौ भ्रातृज्ञातिन् यौथिकांश्चैवोपेये चैवोपेयाय नान्यं कञ्चन वेद्य मयि अति विश्रभश्चात एव मया मत्परायणस्य उपोषणपालन प्रीणलालनम् अनसूयुनानुष्ठेयं शरणयोपेक्षदोषविदुषा. What two word meanings? Aho bata, alas, I am this Harina Kunakaha, the deer calf, Kripanaha, helpless, Ishvara Ratha Charana Paribhramana Rayena, by the force of rotation of the time agent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is compared to the wheel of his chariot. Swagana, own kinsmen, Suhrit, and friends, Bandhubhyah, relatives, Parivarjitah, deprived of, Sharanam, as shelter, Cha, and me, Upasaditah, having obtained, Mam, me, Eva, alone, Mata Pitarau, father and mother, Bhratrignatin, brothers and kinsmen, Yauthikan, belonging to the herd, Cha, also, Eva, certainly, Upeyaya, having gotten, Na, not, Anyam, anyone else, Kanchana, some person, Veda, it knows, Mai, in me, Ati, very great, Vishrabdha, having faith, Cha, and Atah Eva, therefore, Maya, by me, Mat Parayanasya, of one who is so dependent upon me, Poshana Palana Prinana Lalanam, raising, maintaining, petting, and protecting. I'm informed that the verse is something else. This was covered already. Oh Krishna. Okay. Let's see. I saw in the Sunday feast it was 588. You only gave, I think. Okay, sorry, Hare Krishna. Anasuyuna, who am without any grudge. Anushteyam, to be executed. Sharanya, the one who has taken shelter. Upeksha, of neglecting. Dosha vidusha, who knows the fault. Translation and okay. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. The great King Maharaj Bharata began to think, alas, this helpless young deer, by the force of time, an agent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has now lost its relatives and friends and has taken shelter of me. It does not know anyone but me, as I have become its father, mother, brother, and relatives. This deer is thinking in this way, and it has full faith in me. It does not know anyone but me, therefore I should not be envious and think that for the deer my own welfare will be destroyed. I should certainly raise, protect, gratify, and fondle it. When it has taken shelter with me, how can I neglect it? Even though deer is disturbing my spiritual life, I realize that a helpless person who has taken shelter cannot be neglected. That would be a great fault. Purport. When a person is advanced in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness, he naturally becomes very sympathetic toward all living entities suffering in the material world. Naturally, such an advanced person thinks of the suffering of the people in general. However, if one does not know of the material suffering of fallen souls and becomes sympathetic because of bodily comforts, as in case of Bharat Maharaj, such sympathy or compassion is the cause of one's downfall. If one is actually sympathetic to fallen, suffering humanity, he should try to elevate people from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. As far as the deer was concerned, Bharat Maharaj became very sympathetic. But he forgot that it was impossible for him to elevate a deer to spiritual consciousness. Because, after all, a deer is but an animal. It was very dangerous for Bharat Maharaj to sacrifice all his regulative principles simply to take care of an animal. The principles enunciated in Bhagavad Gita should be followed. Yam hi na vyatha yantya ete purusham purusharashabha. As far as the material body is concerned, we cannot do anything for anyone. However, by the grace of Krishna, we may raise a person to spiritual consciousness if we ourselves follow the rules and regulations. If we give up our own spiritual activities and simply become concerned with the bodily comfort of others, we will fall into a dangerous position. उमज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपा तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं हरिः ओं तत्सत्. Hare Krishna. So it appears that this verse has already been covered, but I could not understand which verse is there for today. So I made up my mind for this verse and came. So please allow me to speak on this verse. So this is a very nice verse. It is very much relevant to all devotees, especially preachers of Krishna consciousness. In this verse, the context is basically that there is a devotee whose name is Bharat Maharaj, who, out of becoming naturally compassionate to a baby deer, gave up the practice of his own spiritual life in order to help them. And the thought process or the mind of Bharat Maharaj, if you see in this verse and in the next verse, and also in the 11th verse, at least for the next 3 verses, how Bharat Maharaj got attached is very nicely being covered. The Bhagavad Gita also talks about the process of getting attached. Dhyayato vishya pumsa sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamat kamat krodha vijayate. So how you get attached and how that attachment leads to further possessiveness and lust. Again, when I read these 3 verses, translations, I realized that this is a very nice elaboration on that verse of Bhagavad Gita, how attachment comes. How a person starts thinking in a wrong direction, in a mental concocted direction. And even a very intelligent person sometimes think that this process of getting attached to someone is greater than my spiritual life. In the next verse, we hear Bharat Maharaj saying one should certainly neglect his own personal interests, although they may be very important, to protect one who has surrendered. So this is not the right approach, especially in spiritual life. First of all, it is natural for a person who is a devotee of Krishna to be sympathetic. We see Arjuna also in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita giving reasons from Dharma Shastra, giving reasons from Niti Shastra, Nyaya Shastra, also Artha Shastra. How not fighting, not following the Kshatriya code of conduct, how taking the infamy, dishonor, begging is suitable rather than killing his family members. So he was passing these, he was giving these reasons, and Krishna didn't like these reasons. In the second chapter we see. So sometimes, we may be bewildered that what is the real dharma? Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena katha sapanta. So dharma is a very, very dynamic thing. Basically, dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam. Dharma is coming from Krishna. The will of Krishna is dharma. And the will of Krishna is not something which can be very easily understood. We see in this pastime where Mother Earth has taken the form of a cow and has approached Brahma and other demigods to seek shelter. And they've all gone to the milk ocean, and then they're all rendering very nice, beautiful prayers. But the will of Krishna is understood only by a Mahajan called Brahma. And that Mahajan is further propagating that, okay, this is what Krishna wants. This is how you should align yourself to the will of Krishna by taking birth in the Yadav family. And this is how we should prepare to assist Krishna. So, Krishna reveals his desire or his intention to his devotees based on the level of their surrender. Many times, many disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they are asking many questions to him. How to do this? What about this? Should we do this? Should we not do this? And in most of the letters which have been answered in reply to those questions, Srila Prabhupada says, just sincerely hear yourself chant Hare Krishna and let the expert within you guide you. This is the summary of most of the letters. Where Srila Prabhupada says, chant Hare Krishna and Paramatma will guide you, Krishna will guide you. He will send all help, he'll give you all intelligence. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti. Those who worship Krishna satata, continuously, priti purvakam, with love and affection. Krishna gives them the intelligence by which they can experience Krishna, by which they can make others experience Krishna, and by which they can ultimately attain the lotus feet of Krishna. So, we have to follow the Mahajans basically. Because Bharat Maharaj was not having the association of Mahajans, and because he was very much hell-bent on, or rather, let's say, Krishna was using Bharat Maharaj to teach a lesson to the entire human society that at any cost, the personal sadhana should never be neglected at any cost. Srila Prabhupada has ordered all the sincere followers of Lord Chaitanya that one should chant minimum 16 rounds and one should follow the 4 regulative principles. Many times book distributors would also ask Srila Prabhupada, what should be our mood while book distribution, and how should we do book distribution? Srila Prabhupada would say, first finish chanting your 16 rounds and then go out in a mood of enthusiasm, become my instrument and distribute the books. So this clarity he gave to everybody, that everybody should chant first their 16 rounds and then only go out for services and seva and other things. My spiritual master says that the first duty of a disciple is to chant his 16 rounds. That is the first and the most primary service which we have. And I have learned from many pastimes where one servant approached him at around 6 a.m. in the morning that Guru Maharaj, there are many emails which are lined up, correspondence is pending. Can we clear it off? And Guru Maharaj said, the first duty of a disciple is to finish his rounds. So he postponed all activities and first chanted his rounds and then he took up other services. So in order to do service to Krishna, one's consciousness should be good. Daily in the morning, after purifying ourselves by doing nice deity worship, when we further cleanse our heart and our consciousness in the Bhakti Ganga of chanting Hare Krishna, then only we become capable to render service to Krishna, in which we can do Rishikena Rishikesha Sevana. In order to serve Krishna, we need to have proper consciousness. It is my personal experience that when I have ignored my chanting in order to serve, which is my first duty as a disciple, thinking that this duty as a disciple will also please that duty as a disciple will also please. I've always taken note in the core of my heart that whenever I have given second priority to my japa or chanting, my consciousness has not been very good. I have not been able to receive the divine help from the Guru Parampara to the best of my capacity. And because of the consciousness not being proper, often I have taken wrong decisions, or often I have rendered service which is not to the best of my capacity. Or rather, I have rendered service which is not focused on pleasing Guru and Krishna. So this is my realization. Service easily becomes material when we ignore the japa or the sadhana or the 4 regulative principles, etc. Srila Prabhupada would often ask his disciples, are you chanting your 16 rounds? And if some disciple would say, oh, yesterday I chanted only 14 rounds. And Srila Prabhupada said that as long as you are chanting your 16 rounds, your whereabouts are known. But when you stop chanting 16 rounds, your whereabouts are not known. I don't know what is the purport of this statement, but I'm just quoting from the conversation. Prabhupada says that as long as you're chanting 16 rounds, your whereabouts are known. And the moment you stop it, your whereabouts are not. We don't know where you are in spiritual life. So that is the most important activity. And again, following four regulative principles. I've heard from my spiritual master that those who do not follow four regulative principles, they become like a leaky bucket. So samsara dava nalalidha loka tranaya karunya ghana ghanatvam. So the ocean of mercy is Krishna, and we are the servants of the spiritual masters. We are carrying that water from the ocean of mercy to the place where there is a forest fire of material existence. Now, in order to carry that mercy, we have to act like patra or vessels which can carry that mercy from Guru Parampara and deliver it to people with an understanding that mercy is flowing through us and not from us. However, in the process of carrying that mercy, if we ourselves become leaky bucket, then mercy cannot flow through us. We will become useless in the hands of Guru and Krishna. So by ignoring our own spiritual life, I'm saying this with full realization. By ignoring our spiritual life, if we are compassionate to preach and help others, we are useless servants in the hands of Guru and Krishna. We cannot actually help them to achieve what they want. Or rather, the best way in which we can help ourselves and the Guru Parampara to achieve and fulfill their desires is by following their instructions. And their first instruction is 16 rounds, four regulative principles. So that is what one needs to learn from this verse. This is the preacher syndrome. Preacher syndrome. Not being able to balance between sadhana and preaching. And sometimes some preachers, they become little emotional when someone comes for help or someone says, oh, I need this, I need that. I have this problem, I have that problem. Preachers ignore their japa to help them, postpone their japa to assist people. They do not know that is a great mistake. Srila Prabhupada says in the end of this purport, a very important point. However, by the grace of Krishna, we may raise a person to spiritual consciousness if we ourselves follow the rules and regulations. If we give up our own spiritual activities and simply become concerned with the bodily comforts of others, we will fall into a dangerous position. So the best help, or rather the only help for doing which a preacher has taken a vow, is to connect everyone to Krishna, is to connect everyone to the Guru Parampara. And that cannot be done unless one takes care of their own spiritual consciousness. In fact, it has been seen that if we can nicely, by the grace of Krishna, of course, maintain our spiritual consciousness by understanding, by properly prioritizing our spiritual life, then we can actually raise a person to the spiritual consciousness instead of just helping them. At this point of time, I'm remembering the statements of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. He said that if you want a healthy spiritual life, make sure you finish your rounds in the morning. Rounds can be done in the evening also, afternoon also, night chanters club, we can join, NCC. But if we want a healthy spiritual life, we should try our best to finish our rounds in the morning. So the Acharyas have guided us, and only when we have that proper spiritual consciousness, that will create a ripple effect, and others will be influenced. Others will be attracted to the attraction which we ourselves are feeling to Krishna in the core of our hearts. And in the process of doing so, one has to learn to tolerate. One may say that, see, other so-called spiritual organizations, they are distributing many kambals, many food, shelter, clothing, etc. Why is ISKCON not doing this? ISKCON is trying its best to distribute, but however, ISKCON is more eager to follow the instructions of its founder Acharya. And the founder Acharya has clearly instructed that raise the people from the material platform to the spiritual platform. See, every spiritual organization is following its Acharya. And our Acharya has said that more important than raising a person to making him feel happy by his belly being filled or making him feel warm by distributing kambal, more important is to make them feel happy in the core of their hearts by becoming free of lust, anger, greed, illusion, enviousness, and attachments. Our founder Acharya has highlighted that happiness is an inside job and not a corporal job or a physical job. So therefore, we are chaste to our founder Acharya. With all due respect to other spiritual organizations, we take our stand where we believe that the highest social welfare activity is to connect people to Krishna. So here, Srila Prabhupada is also mentioning, if one does not know of the material suffering of the fallen souls and becomes sympathetic because of bodily comforts, such sympathy or compassion is the cause of one's downfall. If one is actually sympathetic to fallen, suffering humanity, he should try to elevate people from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. So one has to learn to tolerate. As far as the material body is concerned, we cannot do anything for anyone. This is the ultimate truth. We cannot do anything for anyone. The best doctor could not save Michael Jackson. The best doctor could not save Jayalalitha. And the best doctor could not save Alexander. So we have to learn from the mistakes which these personalities made. We cannot do physically anything for anyone. However, we can try to connect them to Krishna. That will change their karma. That will change their consciousness. And in regard of this, in the process of performing duty, or in the context of this entire discussion, we have to teach everybody the importance of tolerance. There is a very nice statement in the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, what Prabhupada is quoting in this verse, Yam hi na vyatha yantya ete purusham purusharshana. This verse basically says one who is equipoised in both happiness and distress is eligible for liberation. That is the summary of this verse from second chapter. And before this verse, Krishna is telling that, this happiness and distress are like passing of summer and winter, and it's just arising due to material sense perception only. And one should learn Tam Titikshasva Bharata. Krishna is teaching that verse. In fact, Bhagavad Gita is the only book which in the whole creation, which teaches people that one should be, apuryamanam achalam pratishtham. One should be like a ocean where there may be so many troubles, but one has to learn to tolerate it and not try to solve each and every problem which life throws at you. Nasha antim apanoti kamakam. A person who is trying to solve each and every problem which life throws at us, which is inevitable, because the design of this world is like that, that person will never achieve peace in life. So in order to achieve peace in life, one has to learn to tolerate and understand that not all problems can be solved, and mostly all problems are at the level of mind, thinking, feeling and willing. So if we can kindly know and understand that I am not my mind, and this thinking, feeling and willing whirlpool which the mind is creating has got nothing to do with my happiness, and we can achieve that by following Krishna consciousness, then it is a great achievement. Everybody in this world will become happy, truly happy. And if we have achieved this, if we have really made people happy, because time has shown, history has shown, that filling the belly of people doesn't make them happy, distributing kambal doesn't make them happy, giving them house doesn't make them happy. In fact, it makes them more lazy. In the Puranas, there is a story that there was a son who followed in the footsteps of his father, who was a king, His father used to feed everybody in the kingdom every day. So he started following in the footsteps of his father and started feeding him every day. And the father came in his dream and told that, please don't do so. I am a resident of hell. Because by feeding everyone every day, I made them not burn the chulha in their house, and therefore I made them lazy, so I went to hell. So sometimes feeding, and of course he was not feeding prasad also. So of course, not only trying to take care of the bodily comforts of other people in the wrong way, with not the most spiritual intention, not only it is incorrect, but it can also lead to sinful reactions. And the ultimate truth is that one cannot do anything for anybody at the bodily platform. So therefore, the best activity which practitioners of Bhagavad Gita and chanters of Hare Krishna can do is to make people understand that they learn to tolerate the dualities of life. And how to tolerate? Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Chant Hare Krishna in all circumstances in an unfailing way. Try to use the senses in the service of Krishna. Achieve happiness by hearing about the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna. Achieve happiness by practicing the 6 loving exchanges in the association of devotees. Achieve happiness by understanding the 6 principles of Sharanagati. Achieve happiness by relishing Krishna Prasad, the mercy of Krishna, and achieve happiness by understanding that each situation of my life, is the mercy of Krishna. In this consciousness, one will understand that I am not this body, but I am the spirit soul. Aham Brahmasmi. And in this consciousness, one can understand that I am Brahman and the goal of my life is to serve Parabrahman, whose name is Krishna. Ishvaraha Paramah Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. So in this way, we can, the whole society understanding that Vasudev is the source of everything, Vasudevam Sarvamiti, will become very happy, and the whole world will become Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The whole world will become a family under Vasudeva. Also, the right attitude would have been for a personality as elevated as Bharat Maharaj to be a Pandit. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shwa Pake Cha Panditaha Samadarshana. So a Pandit does not differentiate with anyone on the bodily platform. Rather, a Pandit's equivocal, or what do you call it? A Pandit's vision, Pandit's equivision is that he sees everybody at the spiritual platform and thinks, how can I help the spirit soul in its journey towards Krishna? When a Pandit sees a Brahmana, the Pandit sees here is a non-envious, a pious Brahmana. So my job is to give him some dakshina and engage him in Hari Katha and Hari Kirtan, so that he does not have the anxiety of roti, kapada and makan and continue his task of Pathan, Pathan, Yajan, Yajan. And here is a dog eater or a dog. A dog cannot understand. Prabhupada says you cannot call a dog in the Bhagavad Gita class and ask him to become a brahmachari. That is not possible. Just like you people are laughing, Prabhupada also laughed in the lecture. That is not possible. Like that he laughed. So we cannot make a dog a brahmachari until and unless we have been blessed by Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya can do that. He made everybody pure devotees in that Jharikhanda forest pastime. So nicely, elephants, snakes, deers, rhinoceroses, bears, lions, tigers, you name whichever animal, whoever was there, everybody became a devotee, pure devotee. Whenever there is the sound vibration of the pure devotional names of Lord Krishna, It has been seen not just in this Lord Chaitanya's pastime, but even in other references in other events in the scriptures. Even the most violent animals have lost their violent propensities. Even in the Krishna book, under the expert guidance of Srila Prabhupada, the Brahma Vimohan Leela pastime, where Krishna is standing with curd rice and pickles in his hand, uh, and some cowherd stick, and Brahma is praying. In the background, you will see one tiger and one deer sitting together. Yes, if you have noticed, it is there. And Krishna book painting. If you see that Brahma Vimohan Leela painting, where Brahma is praying and Krishna is standing. So one tiger and one deer are sitting together. This shows that both the tiger and the deer were not in bodily consciousness. They were not envious of each other. Why a tiger attacks a deer? Because the tiger wants to eat the deer. And tiger is only concerned about himself. That's what Bharat Maharaj is saying, that I am not envious. I should take care of this deer also. The tiger has Dehatma Buddhi and the deer also has Dehatma Buddhi. But Vrindavan means zero Dehatma Buddhi, only Krishna Buddhi. We have, if someone is only concerned about the happiness of Krishna and is ready to protect the interests of Krishna at any cost, that person is a Vrindavan Vasi. That person is a Vrajvasi. So, if a dog comes, what can we teach the dog? At the max, we can give the dog some Krishna Prasad, just like Lord Chaitanya did. He was giving the dog of Shivanand Sen some Prasad. And then by giving him Prasad, he liberated him. So the best thing which we can do to animals like dogs, or the best way in which we can perform this Samadarshina act, giving equal treatment to Brahmana and the dog, is helping the Brahmana to progress in Krishna consciousness, helping the dog to progress in Krishna consciousness. Now this is done differently in different cases. Brahmana has to be made sit on the Vyasasana and given some dakshina, and we have to hear from him. That is how we help the Brahmana progress. Similarly, for the dog, we cannot allow him in the temple hall and sit on the Vyasasana. We have to keep him outside and give him some Krishna Prasad. That is the way we make the dog progress in Krishna consciousness. Similarly, the dog eater has to be given some different treatment. The elephant has to be given some different treatment. So this Pandita vision was missing in this act of Bharat Maharaj. He did not act like a Pandit. He acted like a person who was bewildered by body consciousness for some time. And this is what we have to understand or take away from this verse, basically. So, one should not try to serve the bodies of the people only, rather, one should try to make the living entity happy by planning their spiritual welfare, which automatically guarantees the subtle and the physical welfare of everybody. Spiritual welfare ensures subtle and physical welfare, and vice versa is not true. If we can somehow make the soul happy, then the whole world becomes happy. But if the soul is not happy, if the soul is spiritually starving, doesn't matter how much money a person has, doesn't matter how much psychiatric sessions a person is taking, doesn't matter what kind of mind, intelligence and false ego he has or she has, they will never be happy. Because mano rathe nasati dhavato bahihi. Because they are on a chariot of mental concoction and they are running until they learn to take shelter of Krishna. This running thing will never stop. So if we want to end our search for happiness, we have to take shelter of Krishna. One more point I would like to say here, when it comes to serving the body and serving the soul, we should fully understand that the body of the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas, that is not material. That has to be served very nicely. We cannot say that I have to help my spiritual master to elevate him to Krishna consciousness. That was the mistake which one of the disciples of Madhavendra Puri did. So therefore, I found a purport in this regard which gives so much clarity. This is from the second canto. As the all-powerful Lord accepts the humble service of his devotee in devotional activities of Archana, his form as the worshipable deity in the temple. Similarly, the body of a pure Vaishnav changes transcendently at once when he gives himself up to the service of the Lord and is trained by a qualified Vaishnava. The injunction of a Vaishnava regulation in this connection runs as follows. Acharya Vishnu Shiladhir Gurushu Naramatir Vaishnave Jati Buddhi Shri Vishnu Namni Shabda Samanya Buddhi. One should not consider the deity of the Lord as worshipped in the temple to be an idol, nor should one consider the authorized spiritual master an ordinary man, nor is his body material. Nor one should consider a pure Vaishnava belonging to a particular caste, etc. So the point which struck me in this entire purport is the body of a pure Vaishnava changes transcendently at once when he gives himself up to the service of the Lord and is trained by a qualified Vaishnava. That means anybody who is practicing Krishna consciousness, who comes in a bona fide Guru Shishya Parampara, and has given his body sincerely, seriously, without any politics, in the service of Guru, Krishna, and sadhus, that person is a Vaishnava. And serving the body of such a Vaishnava is not wrong. One has to do that. Here, serving the body of a deer is wrong because the deer is not a Vaishnava. But had the deer been Vaishnava, had the deer spent some time in Haridas Thakur's cave, just like that python did and become a devotee, maybe in sometime in future we'll hear the glories of that python also. But had this deer spent some time with a devotee and had it become spiritually surcharged with spiritual sound vibration and become a Vaishnava, then Bharat Maharaj serving this deer would have been perfect. Similar thing is being talked in Pandharpur. Pandharpur, there is a very nice temple where Pundarik is worshipped because he served his parents. And now they have made a theme there. That's just serve your parents, that is the highest thing to do. But Acharyas, in sitting in Pandharpur, they give a lecture where they explain that serving Krishna is the highest. Savai pamsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje. Serving Krishna is the highest dharma of everybody. Because Pundarik's parents were Vaishnavas, so he continued serving his devotees, parents, and Krishna liked that service so much that he stood like this to waiting for him to finish serving some devotees. Mad bhakta pyujadivka. Krishna wants that my devotees should get more preference. So therefore, serving the central core of Pundarik serving his parents is not Pundarik serving his parents. The central core is Pundarik serving his pure devotee parents or Vaishnava parents. So whenever a Vaishnava comes, be it a deer or a parent or teacher or a spiritual master, one has to take care utmost of the physical body of that devotee. But if a person is not Vaishnava, then one has to focus on raising their material consciousness to the spiritual consciousness and trying to connect them to Krishna. So with that, I would like to end. These were the thoughts which came to my mind. My watch says that there is 8 minutes time, so we can take some comments, reflections, questions, if there are any. Hare Krishna.
Last Sunday, so Bharat Maharaj passed time in Satyug. We keep talking about fell down because there was no association. I gave an entire class on that. The devotee's question was that Satyuga, anyways, the process was meditation. People are doing it alone. So is it valid to take a lesson like this? Or is it valid to say that he fell down because of the lack of association?
Good question. Yogi or Ashtanga Yoga, which was the process in Satyuga, the Ashtanga Yoga means, according to the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, one should stay in seclusion. However, Dhruv Maharaj pastime, which also happened in Satyuga, where Dhruv Maharaj towards the end of his life went to practice this yoga system. where it is mentioned in Bhagavatam that only for a short time he practiced this Ashtanga Yoga system. And the Acharyas comment there that Dhruv Maharaj did it just to make the other yogis who were around him feel comfortable. And after 3 or 4 days, he immediately went to Bhakti Yoga. Point to be noted that a yogi has to be in seclusion. You cannot make a society of yogis and sit together and do Ashtanga Yoga. But still, we read in the Bhagavatam that when Dhruv Maharaj attained his perfection after having bath, he went and took blessings of all the other yogis who were around. That means even in such kind of a setup where one is meditating alone, there are some people nearby with whom some contact is maintained. Otherwise, why would Dhruv Maharaj, just to take care of their, just to be a little courteous, would do only for 3 days Ashtanga Yoga and then switch to Bhakti Yoga, and then before going and having been perfected, before entering the Vishnu Viman, stepping on the head of death, why did he put tilak all over his body and went and took blessings of all other Vaishnavas? This means that although they are meditating in seclusion, but that there are some other sadhus nearby with whom they can be in touch and somehow take advice. Sometimes it has been seen in scriptures, one sadhu is meditating, other sadhu is passing by. We have read of these kind of situations. It appears that in this situation of Bharat Maharaj, he was extremely secluded, where no other sadhu was accessing him only. Or he was completely inaccessible by other sadhu, because any other sadhu would have definitely come and told him if he would have been in such kind of a setup. That is why again and again it is highlighted that he was alone. This is my understanding.
Another point you say.
I'm trying to add here. This is my first preliminary understanding. My second and more with the argument with which I am more convinced is that this is a setup created by Krishna, just like Parikshit Maharaj's setup was created. A Vaishnav is above bodily consciousness, doesn't feel hungry, thirsty, and is not perplexed because of that. But he became perplexed and ended up putting a snake on a sage. So this is a setup in which no other sadhu was walking up by and no other sadhu was trying to help him, and he was also distancing himself. This is a setup created by Krishna where he is using his pure devotee Bharat Maharaj to teach a lesson to the entire human society. This is my humble understanding.
That's your second answer. Also, this Pula Ashram they have written. This one. Golden said it was ashram. When you're telling, I just contemplated.
Ashram means many people are there practicing Krishna.
Even on the second life, the deer life, so when he comes, this time
never is there.
So some other place he was. Bharat Maharaj, as you rightly said, very secluded.
Yeah. Association is always there. Even in the Dandaka Aranya, when Lord Ram had went, there were many sages doing tapasya. And when you do tapasya, it is a custom that you cannot hang around. Only when one particular stage of your tapasya is over, you take a break and go and meet, take blessings, and then continue the next stage. So my understanding is that when you say ashram or when you say Badrik ashram or Pula ashram, it has to be a spiritually surcharged place, which is like a dham, which becomes surcharged not just because of one person. There are many people there. So this is my understanding. People did take breaks while doing tapasya to take further instructions and guidance and blessings. They did take breaks. Mike.
Prayer, ask for us.
And the friend of Lord. Yes. So here I like this point of that first duty of a disciple is to finish his 16 rounds. And another, this one is the Apuryamanam Shloka, that life may throw so many different problems, but it's not needed that we have to handle all of them. So we can let most of it pass by. So if it is something necessary, then we can handle. Otherwise, we don't need to handle all the problems. We don't need to take care of all the needs that come to us. Yes, Hare Krishna.
this point which you made at the start of the class. It's very nice point. That Krishna reciprocates with the devotee in proportion to the surrender of the devotee. So when just yesterday one devotee was asking me why Krishna is not reciprocating with me. So no, I was just remembering when you said this point, Krishna reciprocates with that devotee, depending on the proportion of his surrender. And I would also like to repeat this point that the primary seva of a disciple is chanting. So everything else comes later. This was one of the personal instruction which I also got, when I was there with Guru Maharaj. So there was a Grihastha devotee who was asking this question: should we do deity worship first? Should we do chanting first? So Guru Maharaj said, keep everything else aside, first chant. After that, you can go for deity worship and other things. Something like that. Hare Krishna. Huh? That is for Grihastha devotees. 4:30 Mangalarti and all is not there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. हरे कृष्णा.